The moment Judge Harrison looked up from that stack of paperwork, I could tell, right then, that everything was about to play out exactly how I'd pictured it, only with a whole lot more drama than I'd bargained for. His eyebrows shot up so high I thought they'd just keep going, and he took off those glasses real slow, like he was about to drop the hammer on someone who'd seriously wasted his time. "Mrs. Peton, am I understanding this correctly?" he said, his voice all disbelief and dry wit. "You're suing this gentleman because his property isn't part of your HOA? And let me tell you, Margaret Peton, Queen of Riverside Gardens, self-declared czar of neighborhood order, was standing so straight in her knockoff Chanel it looked painful, her lips pressed tight like she was sucking on lemons. That's correct, Your Honor, she said, voice as stiff as her hairspray. His flagrant disregard for our community standards is impacting property values across the board. Now, I could barely keep the grin off my face as I slid a single sheet of paper across the desk, just a plain county survey map, but right then it felt like I was throwing down an ace at a poker table. "Your Honor," I said, trying not to laugh, "this is the official survey from the county assessor. My house isn't even in Riverside Gardens. I'm over in Pine Ridge Estates. We don't share a street, not even a trash schedule." Judge Harrison brought that gavel down with a thud you could feel in your chest. "Case dismissed with prejudice. Mrs. Peton, you file another one of these in my courtroom, you'll be held in contempt." You know what I mean? That was the sound of Margaret's entire world collapsing. Her face ran the color chart from sunburn to purple rage in about 5 seconds. But that was just the final round of a fight that had been brewing ever since I bought my place at 42 Pine Ridge Drive, just across the line from her little HOA empire. I work from home, coding most days, nothing wild. Bought myself this modest ranch after years of renting. Place has a workshop out back where I fix up old motorcycles, sometimes for friends, mostly for myself. Best part? No HOA. No one telling me how high to mow my grass or what color my mailbox should be. My only neighborly obligation was a friendly wave if you caught me on a good day. But 23 feet from my boundary, Riverside Gardens began, and that's where Margaret reigned. She'd been running the place like some kind of petty dictator since 2016. Picture a middle-aged woman with platinum hair in a helmet cut, always clutching a citation pad, prowling the streets like she was on patrol for the neighborhood police. I'd heard stories, sure, but I figured if I kept to myself, what could she do? Then one day I get solar panels put up, totally legal, fully permitted. Margaret catches sight during her morning power walk, and before I've even had my second coffee, she's striding up my drive with her clipboard, practically foaming at the mouth. "These solar panels aren't approved by our architectural review committee," she says, like she's the mayor or something. I just keep washing my bike and tell her, "Well, that's good, since I don't live in Riverside Gardens." Her left eye twitches, I kid you not. "Your property impacts our community's visual harmony. You need to submit an application for retroactive approval." I dry my hands, look her dead in the eye. "Margaret, I don't live in your HOA. I never have, and I never will. Have a nice day." Yeah, that should have been the end of it. Spoiler, it wasn't. Next morning, taped right to my door. Not mailed, not slipped in the mailbox, but stuck on like a curse. There's a violation notice. Unauthorized solar installation. Non-compliant mailbox. Excessive oil stains in my driveway. She's listing stuff like she's checking groceries off a list. Says I gotta show up before the HOA board or pay $100 a day per violation. I take a picture, send it to my buddy James, who happens to be a lawyer. He laughs so hard I think he might choke. "Save that," he says. "You might need it for a harassment case." That's when things started getting, well, let's just call it extra. Margaret starts showing up every morning at 7 sharp, snapping photos from the sidewalk. She files complaints with the city, accuses me of running a motorcycle repair shop out back. She even gets a couple of her loyalists to sign a petition about dangerous solar glare, even though none of their houses face mine. The piece de resistance? She mails me a cease and desist on HOA letterhead, Comic Sans font. Yes, Comic Sans, accusing me of aesthetic terrorism because I'm turning my side yard into a wildflower patch. I respond by putting up a flagpole, flying a huge flag that says, "Not your HOA," in big friendly letters. Is it petty? Of course. Did it feel good? Oh, absolutely. 2 days later, she files the lawsuit. The actual legal document is a work of fiction. She claims my property's proximity creates some kind of implied covenant, says I owe damages for decreased property values, emotional distress, and, I kid you not, administrative burden compensation. She wants me forced into the HOA, 5 years back dues, and penalties, $23,000 in total. I don't even bother hiring a lawyer. I gather 3 things: county map, my deed, and a Google Maps screenshot with a giant red arrow pointing to my house and a caption, "Not in Riverside Gardens." The day of the hearing, Margaret shows up with the whole HOA board in matching blazers, probably paid for with dues, and 3 binders of evidence, which turn out to be printed emails, dozens of pictures of my dandelions, and a PowerPoint from the Bill Gates era about property values. She tries to set up a projector in court, the bailiffs having none of it. When it's her turn, she launches into a 15-minute monologue about community standards and the dangers of nonconformity. Says my rebellion is contagious, undermining her authority. At one point, she actually says, if we let him live outside the rules, chaos will ensue. The judge interrupts, deadpan. He doesn't live in your community, correct? Margaret, flustered. He lives adjacent. His property is visible from our streets. That makes him subject to our governance. Judge asks, so is the gas station across the street also subject to your HOA? She actually pauses and says, well, that's commercial property. So it's different. My turn. I hand over my docs. Your Honor, 2 separate neighborhoods, different developers, built in different years. I'm as bound to her rules as she is to the apartments 3 blocks away. The judge doesn't even blink. Mrs. Peton, do you know filing frivolous lawsuits can result in sanctions? Margaret starts arguing boundaries and community impact, but it's over. The gavel drops. Dismissed with prejudice. But you want to know the best part? That's just where the fun starts. I file a harassment complaint with the cops, stack of evidence in hand. Margaret trespassing, snapping photos, false reports, the works. Officer at the desk tries not to laugh. Says, yeah, we've had trouble with her before. She once tried to citizens arrest a mail carrier for wearing shorts. Next day, they issue Margaret a formal warning for harassment and trespassing. When the officer hands it to her, she tries to quote HOA bylaws. He just shakes his head. Ma'am, HOA rules don't override actual laws. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. Then I do what any self-respecting software nerd with a taste for irony would do. I print out copies of the court dismissal, the police report, and a note saying, your HOA president spent association funds suing a non-member. You might want to check where your dues are going. Mail 1 to every house in Riverside Gardens. Within days, the place goes nuclear. Turns out, Margaret's been using HOA money for all kinds of expenses, matching blazers, a new laptop, used mainly for her side hustle selling essential oils, apparently. At the next emergency board meeting, the residents call for a full audit. Margaret tries to shut it down, but gets overruled. She loses it, starts yelling about constitutional violations and hostile takeovers. The vice president literally bangs a backup gavel to get her to sit down. They vote her out, 28-1. The only yes is hers. She storms out, swearing doom and gloom, yelling something about property values cratering. The new president's first order of business? Refund part of everyone's dues. Second, ban Margaret from serving on the board for 5 years. The audit's a massacre. $47,000 blown on legal fees, not just for my case, but for a dozen other failed crusades, including one against the gas station for neon signs. HOA sues Margaret for misuse of funds, wins $32,000 in restitution and $15,000 in punitive damages. In court, when the judge reads the judgment, Margaret's jaw drops so far you could see her dentist's work. But I was protecting property values, she whispers, looking shell-shocked, before her lawyer pulls her down. And you'd think that would be the end, right? But here's where it gets really interesting, because now, every time someone in Riverside Gardens even mentions the HOA, you can hear folks mumbling about boundaries and mind your own business. There's talk about rewriting the bylaws, making the board less powerful, even merging with Pine Ridge someday. Hell, even the folks who used to scowl at me for my dandelions wave now and then. I still fly my not your HOA flag. Every time I mow my grass at whatever height I damn well please, I can't help but grin, because I fought the law, and this time, the law had my back. But here's the million-dollar question. Was I right to go nuclear? Was Margaret just doing her duty, or did she cross a line that no neighbor should ever cross? You tell me. Where should the line be drawn between community and control? Drop your thoughts below. Tell me your wildest HOA story, or just sound off on who you think was really in the wrong here. Because honestly, I think we're all just trying to find our own little corner of peace, and sometimes that means standing up when the world tells you to sit down. So what would you have done? Let's hear it, because this story's just one of thousands, and I'm betting you've got one even crazier.